The champagne flute trembled in Alexander Holloway's hand as he stood before the gilded doors of the Metropolitan Club. Inside, Manhattan's wealthiest gathered for the annual Heart Foundation Gala, the same event where he'd met Sarah 15 years ago. His driver waited behind him. His publicist's text glowed on his phone. "Board expects you there." Show strength. But strength felt like a costume he could no longer wear. He'd hired someone for the evening, a professionally beautiful stranger to stand beside him, so people would stop asking if he was doing okay with that pitying tilt of their heads. Her name was Jennifer. She'd arrive in 7 minutes. Alexander checked his reflection in the brass door handle. Silver-touched hair, Tom Ford tuxedo, eyes that hadn't truly smiled since the hospice nurse had squeezed his shoulder and whispered, "She's at peace now." He wasn't at peace. He was drowning in a sea of wealth that couldn't buy back a single moment. The doors opened. The orchestra swelled. And somewhere in the arriving cars, a young woman applied lipstick in a rearview mirror, rehearsing the smile she perfected for nights like these, never knowing this one would be different. Hit that like button and drop a comment on the question. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let's begin. 3 days earlier, Alexander had stared at his laptop screen in his empty penthouse, the city lights blurring through floor-to-ceiling windows. The Escort agency's website was discreet, elegant, nothing sordid about it. Jennifer Smith's profile showed a woman with intelligent eyes and a measured smile. Sophisticated companion for high-profile events. Master's candidate, fluent in small talk and silence. The reviews praised her discretion. He'd booked her with 4 clicks and immediate self-loathing. Now, Jennifer stood in her modest Brooklyn apartment, studying her reflection. The black gown hugged perfectly. She'd researched Holloway innovations until she could discuss quarterly earnings and AI ethics convincingly. Her mother's nursing home bill sat on the counter, $8, $400 due in 2 weeks. Tonight would cover it. She applied lipstick with surgical precision, each stroke building the armor she needed. Just another performance. Just another night. The Uber dropped her at his building. The doorman knew better than to ask questions. In the elevator ascending to the penthouse, she straightened her spine, assembled her professional smile. The doors opened. She walked down the hallway, heels clicking against marble. Raised her hand. Knocked twice. Everything was about to change. Alexander opened the door and immediately looked away, as if ashamed. "I'm sorry," he said, before she'd even crossed the threshold. I know this is strange." Jennifer had heard every opening line imaginable, but never an apology. She stepped inside, taking in the sprawling penthouse that somehow felt emptier than her studio apartment. He wore his tuxedo like obligation, not elegance. "I just need someone there," he continued, pouring himself scotch with unsteady hands. "Someone who won't ask how I'm doing, or tell me Sarah would want me to move on. Someone who won't." He stopped. "I'll pay you for the full evening regardless." She recognized that look in his eyes. Beneath the privilege and the penthouse and the custom suit was raw, unmedicated pain. The kind her textbooks called complicated grief. The kind that made people do unusual things. "I understand," she said quietly. The ride to the gala was silent except for Manhattan traffic. Jennifer watched his reflection in the window, jaw tight, fingers drumming against his knee. He watched hers, both of them aware that whatever script they prepared for tonight had already been abandoned somewhere between the door and the truth. The Metropolitan Club dripped with old money and new fortunes. Crystal chandeliers cast flattering light on designer gowns and practiced smiles. Women air-kissed without touching makeup. Men discussed mergers like battlefield victories. "Alexander, so good to see you out." A woman in diamonds gripped his arm. "And who is this lovely creature?" "My guest," Alexander said, the words deliberately vague. Jennifer smiled with perfect warmth, extending her hand with practiced grace. She played her part flawlessly, laughing at unfunny jokes, nodding through tedious conversations about summer homes and market volatility. But she was trained to observe, and she noticed everything. How Alexander's smile never reached his eyes, a performance as polished as her own. How he flinched when someone mentioned the Sarah Holloway Foundation, his face briefly crumpling before reassembling itself. How his hand trembled slightly accepting yet another round of condolences. That "we're so sorry for your loss," delivered with the sincerity of weather commentary. 2 years, and they still look at me like I'm broken glass, he muttered as they moved toward their table. Jennifer said nothing, but her hand, resting lightly on his arm for appearances, pressed slightly firmer. A small acknowledgement. "I see you." Dinner was Chilean sea base and passive aggression. Across the table, Richard Chun, a venture capitalist who tried to poach Alexander's CTO, swirled his wine with predatory leisure. "Tell me, Alexander, how's leadership treating you these days? Given recent circumstances, the board must wonder about your focus." Jennifer felt Alexander stiffen beside her. The table went quiet, vultures sensing blood. She leaned forward. "Actually, Holloway Innovations just posted record quarterly growth. Their AI ethics framework is being adopted industry-wide. I'd say his focus is exactly where it needs to be." Richard blinked. Alexander stared at her. "You follow tech?" someone asked. "I'm finishing my doctorate in social work," Jennifer said, then caught herself. "Too much. Too real. Among other things." Alexander's expression shifted, seeing past the dress and the arrangement to the person underneath. Later, near the bar, a man in his 60s approached Jennifer with bourbon confidence. "I know you," he said, hand sliding toward her waist. "We've met before." Alexander materialized between them. "The lady is with me." His voice carried quiet steel. "And you're leaving." The man retreated. Alexander turned to Jennifer, and for the first time that night, something like protection flickered in his eyes. "I need air," Alexander said suddenly, abandoning his untouched dessert. The rooftop garden was empty, string lights glowing against Manhattan's skyline. Jennifer slipped off her heels, feet aching. The performance was exhausting, pretending not to notice the whispers, the calculations in people's eyes. Alexander loosened his bow tie. For a long moment, they stood in silence. "Why do you do this?" he asked quietly. Not accusatory, genuinely curious. Jennifer had rehearsed deflections for this question. "I enjoy meeting interesting people. The flexibility suits my schedule." But something about the rooftop, the darkness, his earlier protection, it stripped away her script. "My mother has early onset Alzheimer's," she said. "She's 53. The care facility costs $9,000 a month. Insurance covers maybe half. I have student loans. A doctoral stipend that's basically poverty with a thesis." She laughed bitterly. "Medical debt doesn't care about your dignity. It just swallows everything." Alexander listened without the pity she braced for. No solutions offered, no uncomfortable platitudes. Just presence. "One night like this covers 2 weeks of her care," Jennifer continued. "So I smile. I perform. I become whoever they need me to be." Something in her chest loosened. The truth, finally spoken aloud. Alexander stared at the city lights, hands gripping the railing. "Sarah died on a Tuesday," he said. "Pancreatic cancer. 11 months from diagnosis to—" He stopped. Jennifer stayed quiet, her social work training kicking in. Don't fill the silence. Let them find their words. "The hospice nurse called me at 2 p.m. Said I should come soon. I was in a board meeting about the merger. I told myself I'd finish, then go. It was important. The company needed—" His voice cracked. "She died at 3:47. I got there at 4:15. The confession hung between them. I missed her last words because of a fucking PowerPoint presentation." He turned, and his face was devastated. "Every success since then feels like ash. The stock price, the innovation awards, the foundation in her name, it's all just noise. She's not here to share it, and I chose a conference room over her final moments." He broke then. Truly broke. Shoulders shaking, breath ragged. Jennifer didn't try to fix it, didn't offer empty comfort. She just stepped closer, her hand finding his, and held space for his grief. For the first time in 2 years, someone let Alexander Holloway fall apart. Alexander wiped his eyes, embarrassed. But when he looked at Jennifer, really looked, he saw clearly for the first time all evening. Her intelligence, her sacrifice, the dignity she maintained while carrying impossible weight. "How much?" he asked suddenly. "What?" "Your mother's debts. All of it." "How much?" Jennifer stepped back. "Alexander. 200,000. 3. I want to pay it off." The words tumbled out, impulsive but certain. Not as a client, not as payment for tonight. Just one human being helping another. Her face went through shock, confusion, then hardened into something defensive. "I'm not your charity case." "It's not charity. Then what is it?" Her voice sharp now, protective. "Guilt. You couldn't save Sarah, so you'll save the broken escort? Is this how you buy absolution?" The words cut, but Alexander didn't flinch. "Maybe that's part of it," he admitted. "But it doesn't make your struggle less real. It doesn't make you less deserving of help. I don't need rescue. I'm not offering rescue. I'm offering resources I have and you need. There's a difference." Jennifer's hands trembled, shame and hope warring on her face. "You don't understand," Jennifer said, voice shaking. "Accepting this it makes everything I've done feel like it was leading to this moment. Like I was always going to end up as someone's project. You're not a project. You're a person drowning in a system designed to break people like you." "People like me?" Anger flashed in her eyes. "You mean poor? Desperate?" "I mean brilliant people forced to sacrifice their dignity because healthcare costs are criminal and education is a luxury and the distance between surviving and thriving is a medical emergency." Alexander's voice rose. "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. It sits in accounts earning interest while you sell pieces of yourself to keep your mother alive. Tell me how that's fair." "Life isn't fair." "No, but I can make this one thing fair." Jennifer turned away, arms wrapped around herself. "And what do you get? A clean conscience?" "Maybe," he said quietly. "Or maybe I get to remember what it feels like to actually matter. To use this wealth for something real instead of another tax-deductible foundation bearing my dead wife's name." The honesty stunned them both into silence. They left as the gala was ending, having abandoned the event hours ago. In the back of Alexander's car, exhausted and emotionally stripped bare, they sat in silence that no longer felt heavy. Manhattan blurred past the windows, the city transitioning from night to the gray promise of dawn. "I need time," Jennifer finally said, "to think about everything." "Of course." She pulled out her phone, fingers hovering over the screen. Then, decisively, she typed her number and sent it to him. "That's my real number, not the agency's." Alexander looked at the message, understanding its significance. "Coffee sometime," she offered. Not like tonight. Just 2 people." "I'd like that." The car stopped outside her building. Jennifer gathered her shoes, her small purse. At the door, she paused. "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for letting me fall apart." She stepped onto the sidewalk. Dawn broke across the skyline, painting everything gold. That afternoon, Alexander's phone buzzed. "Still thinking, but thank you for last night." He typed back, "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." 2 people, no longer alone in their pain, brave enough to try again. Thank you for staying until the end. Now go watch the next video.